I ask that our second group of community leaders please come forth and join Senator Dodd on the podium.
Good afternoon.
My name is Carrie Martin, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a practicing attorney. I earned my bachelor's degree in finance with honors, and I am a board member with the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless. Yet, I am a former homeless person. I was a ward of the state in Illinois for 8 years, and I am a single parent. For many, my accomplishments provide evidence that people can, in fact, pull themselves up from their bootstraps. However, that is 100% false, as I would not have been able to accomplish not one accomplishment without the help of numerous individuals and organizations. Thank you. You see, when we provide our young people with the right opportunities, everyone reaps the benefits of a generation which is self-sufficient and fulfilled with community values. I have personally witnessed beautiful, strong, and gifted, and please believe me when I say gifted, young people become victims of poverty because they were not given the right resources such as affordable housing, equal opportunity to education, adequate health care, and a living wage, all of which are human rights. And because our take it by yourself policies are abandoning our youth and limiting people to be able to have success stories such as my own, we are taking away our opportunity to have a better future and a fresh start as a country.
My name is Kenya Bradshaw, and I'm here from Memphis, Tennessee. I stand before you just as Carrie because of God's grace and support from my immediate and extended family. Like many others who go to college, while there, I amassed an enormous amount of debt. I'm 27 years old, and I owe more than $37,000 in student loans. That is more than $1,000 for every year that I have been alive. Rather than providing the support necessary for our children to succeed, such as high-quality early education and free colleges for all youth, what we are currently doing is saying that you are on your own and ensuring that poverty goes on from generation to generation. What I stand before you today to ask you, Senator Dodd, is that if you are to become president, what actions would you put in place to ensure that my generation does not live their entire lives burdened by personal debt for basic needs such as education, housing, and health care, and we are provided the support that is necessary for us to thrive?
Great questions. First of all, thank you both for being here. And again, I'll come back. I can tell you, give you a good speech about all this, but let me tell you what I've been doing. I'm mortified that certain candidates who are going to be on this program, and have been, for instance, voted for the Bankruptcy Act when I spent 6 years fighting the bankruptcy law in this country. Written by the major banks, written by the credit card companies, written by the student lenders here who wanted to trap people in bankruptcy. I fought that for 6 straight years to stop it. That was one of the worst pieces of legislation ever passed in the last 25 or 30 years, that bankruptcy bill. But what I've done is I'm not waiting until 2009 to be your president. I'm starting already. We've introduced legislation here to say no one has to go into bankruptcy because of a medical crisis. No child support is going to be available to the credit agencies here. That student loans are going to be dischargeable under bankruptcy here. You don't allow people to not be able to grab and never allow you to pay back those resources. And you ought to never lose your home. You ought to never lose your home in a bankruptcy proceeding here. You ought to be able to keep your house, fight for your health, and stay in school. So we're working on it already to get the job done. But I will never forget the fact there are people who give great speeches about poverty in this country today, but when I sought for their votes to fight the bankruptcy bill, weren't there for it. So I like the speeches I'm hearing today. I just wish they'd been with me 6 or 7 years ago. We were trying to make a difference in this country to stop that kind of legislation.
Your question?
Yes, my name is Matt Russell. I live in Lacona, Iowa. I want to talk, I'm also a member of Iowa Citizen Action Network.
Good.
And I want to talk about investing in opportunity. I'm a fifth-generation Iowa farmer, and my family has a lot to be proud of. But we would be fools if we thought that everything we accomplished we did on our very own. From school lunch to summer opportunities, and employment opportunities and programs, to financial aid for college, my family has benefited a great deal from the kind of help that government can provide. The pull yourself up by your bootstraps just doesn't work. And as Carrie and Kenya shared, we know that our country is more successful when we invest in everyone. Unfortunately, for the last 30 years, we have been consistently reducing investment in public investments in education, healthcare, housing, job training, nutrition. It goes on through all the public goods. And during this 30 years, every year we have seen an increase, consistently over the 30 years, an increase in the gap between the rich and the poor. What will you do to change that trend? And do you believe that we can reduce poverty in this country by 50% in the next 10 years? And will you make a personal commitment to achieve that goal?
Thank you very much. Take the last part of your question first, and I make that commitment to you. In fact, I've made that commitment over the years. Again, I invite people to go back and look at my record for a quarter of a century on these issues. I'm no Johnny come lately to these questions. I've been fighting tooth and nail for a quarter of a century on these questions here. But very specifically, I mentioned a couple of things we need to be doing. One is I think we ought to be expanding the child tax credit here. It doesn't reach enough poor people in the country. I'm authoring ideas to do that, to expand that base. That's 7 million children that we could take out of poverty by just doing that alone. By taking the earned income tax credit and providing more advantage or access to that would take 2.5 million children out of poverty. There's almost 10 million kids that we could lift out of poverty, as we did with the Social Security Act, when we took the older Americans and moved them from poverty into a decent standard of living. But secondly, we need to do this. There's a direct correlation between the gap in earning and the decline in union households in America. Right now, we have less than 8% of households are unionized in the private sector. With that declining number, the earning power of people, the ability to negotiate for decent wages and decent working conditions gets severely constrained. I'm a great believer in giving people the right to organize, the right to negotiate for their own benefits and salaries here, expanding those rights. Nothing will do more, in my view, than raising the level of income for people in this country than if they have that opportunity. And lastly here, and my administration will be providing no tax breaks for corporations to pack up and leave America here. You're going to get help if you'll stay in America and employ people here instead of sending jobs overseas. And there'll be no trading agreements that'll get my signature on them that don't include labor standards, health standards, and environmental standards. We ought not to be giving away America's wealth and trading agreements. Those 3 or 4 things, I think, would help us reach the goals you've talked about. I thank you all.
Senator Dodd, we thank you so much for joining us, but in closing, we have one question that we would like for you to give us a yes or no answer
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
If you are elected President of the United States, will you agree within your first 100 days to meet with a delegation of representatives from the Campaign for Community Values?
You won't have to wait until January 20th. I'll meet with you a week after the election. Next November, you'll be meeting with President-elect Dodd. So count on it then. You don't have to wait till January to have that happen.
Thank you so very much. God bless you.
Thank you, everybody. Really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
to Senator Dodd. Thank you to our community leaders.